meltdown after Trump announces his badass plan for dealing with arrested criminals. All the shiny new officers at Long Island Community College were in for the thrill of a lifetime on Friday when the president came and spoke to them about their jobs in law enforcement. His speech was no doubt thrilling for these officers because he's the president, but he also went out of his way to empower those officers to protect the people in their community from lawbreakers. His remarks were, of course, offensive to many because, well, we're not supposed to tell liberals that they can't break the law. Mother Jones gleefully reported on the comments that they thought were totally out of line. President Donald Trump gave a speech at a Long Island Community College on Friday during which he encouraged the use of violence. Turns out the audience was comprised of officers in a police department that has been scrutinized for racial profiling, and whose former chief was recently sentenced to prison for beating a man. The Suffolk County Police Department, SCPD, has been under federal oversight by the U.S. Department of Justice since 2013, following a 2-year investigation into allegations of discrimination against Latinos and immigrants. Nearly 20% of the county's 1.5 million residents are Latino. During his speech, Trump encouraged officers not to be too nice to suspects or take measures to protect them from harm. The speech was supposed to address federal efforts to combat MS-13, the violent street gang with ties to Central America. Whoever wrote that must not be very familiar with MS-13 or other gangs like them. The idea that you'd want anyone to go easy on a bunch of killers like that speaks to a total isolation from the very real problem that many face in our country today. The police department released this statement shortly after the president's speech, more or less slapping him in the face for his efforts to show support to their boys in blue. Their statement read, "As a department, we do not and will not tolerate roughing up of prisoners." The International Association of Chiefs of Police also piled on, though in a slightly less obvious manner. They basically just said that he doesn't have the training to know what he's talking about. So everybody just do what you're told and don't listen to the president. The desk riders, the higher-ups, the paper pushers, they're all looking to climb a ladder, collect a bigger check and rub shoulders with the deep pockets. They don't like this plan at all because they know it's not good for the short-term optics. They know that the media has been able to change public opinion with one little snapshot, and suddenly a police force has a PR nightmare on their hands. So what do the boots on the ground think about the president's remarks? I'm glad you asked because they think it's a brilliant idea. And for the record, he's not talking about brutality, he's talking about not protecting murderers from the natural bumps and bruises along the way. He's saying that maybe if the criminals were less sure they'd get kind and considerate treatment, maybe they'd feel less inclined to murder. I'm not sure what universe not allowing someone to bump their own head qualifies as brutality. And if you'll notice, he didn't say to do anything aggressive, he said don't be too nice. In other words, you should treat good law-abiding citizens better than you treat lawbreakers in cuffs. Seems pretty self-explanatory to me, but apparently not everyone agrees with that. Here's how Mother Jones went off on the department after they had the gall to clap for and support our commander-in-chief. Such a reaction is, at the very least, unsettling given the allegations of discrimination against the department. The DOJ never publicized the findings of its investigation, but a 2011 letter from the DOJ to then Suffolk County Executive Steve Levy indicates that the police department was investigated for discriminatory policing against Latinos, including an indifference toward immigrant residents that discouraged reporting crimes and cooperation with law enforcement, failing to thoroughly investigate hate crimes, and enforcing immigration policies in a way that encouraged racial profiling. A reform agreement reached between the DOJ and Suffolk County in 2013 required the department to institute a range of reforms. Specifically, the SCPD has been tasked with developing a bias-free policy that prohibits discrimination, including the denial of services based on race, and with revising its policy for the arrest of non-U.S. citizens and people with dual citizenship. The agreement also mandates additional anti-bias training, more outreach to Latinos, the hiring of more bilingual officers, and a biannual report to the DOJ about misconduct complaints against officers. The Justice Department launched its investigation into the SCPD in 2009, after the murder of 37-year-old Ecuadorian immigrant Marcelo Lucero. Lucero was stabbed to death by a member of a gang of teenagers who police officials later said target Latinos. Lawyers for Lucero's family sued Suffolk County officers, accusing them of failing to investigate the crime thoroughly. As part of the DOJ investigation that followed, Latino residents told officials about hate crimes they reported to local police that were not investigated, and that they felt immigrant bashing was permitted by the SCPD, according to the reform agreement. Once again, the left thinks they've got him. Trust me, if you got murdered, you wouldn't want anyone treating your murderer too kindly, and yet you'd think the world was ending. They're just sure that if they can make even one comment like this that horrifies them reach enough people, conservatives will finally turn on him. The problem with it is that we agree with him, and the more they publicize comments like this, the more we like them.